Well, I am so excited to be here with one of my teachers back when I lived in Boston, one of my favorite teachers, Andrea Fotopoulos. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Amy. It's so nice to see you and be with you this morning.
Oh, thank you for making the time. You talked a little bit about all of the silver linings. Can you share a little bit about your learnings so far?
Remy, I think the one thing I will say that I love about this time is that at no other time have I found that so many yoga practitioners are actually taking the responsibility of their yoga practice in their own hands. Right? While
Mm-hmm.
even though that they're relying on the voice of the teacher, like they're in their living rooms, they're in their kitchens, they're in their bathrooms, in their hallways, their basements, whatever they have, right? In their bar spaces, they come and it's up to them. What they hear and listen to is up to them. When
Mm-hmm.
they rest is up to them, right? When they modify is up to them. It's just really up to them. And so at no time have I really seen such a step towards studentship as I have now. And
Mm-hmm.
so this pandemic has really offered through my lens that I've made meaning is that I've seen like all the sort of the things that bring joy, happiness, fulfillment, ease, satisfaction. They live like right in the same place as sorrow, heaviness, loss, difficulty, right? And that to sit with them like side by side is to really appreciate like the offerings of life, right? That one can actually not come without the other, and nor is one like elevated than the other, right? Because that would be like a way for us like renouncing the right, like what is. It's like the isness of life. It's like both of these things. We can't see the light if we didn't have the dark.
Mm-hmm.
And the contrast has really even though I do prefer the things that are joyful, right? Like those are the things that are easy. Like I can't tell you I don't have preferences over on this side. I much prefer not to have it be like heavy, but that it's the like the recognition that these things live side by side and the sitting with what is for me instead of what I wish it was or what I hope it is, right? um has really brought me to a place of like deep um I won't call it non-attachment, but like a place of really just a lot more compassion, like a lot more compassion for myself, for the things that are, for the fluctuation in the play. Um, yeah, and it's helped me personally move away because there is so much more compassion about what is, like the isness of things, that I'm able to work in my yoga practice in a way that's like way steady and mindful, not goal oriented, and even in my life to just be like have the compassion to be permissive in a way where growth is possible, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think when you're compassionate towards yourself first, and then you can be compassionate to others, there's that doesn't mean like you don't see the things, like you don't see the dark. I see the dark plenty. I see where I'm like, can get better and do better and do more, the moreness of like, the grind and the grist. But I also like if I'm stepping steadily and I'm holding these things side by side, like reflection is possible. I can reflect and say this and that. They're like of equal weight and one comes with the other. And um yeah, so this is really how I'm keeping the middle road through the pandemic. And
Mm-hmm.
doing my best, right? Doing my best to sort of navigate the twists and turns.
Yeah, no, I love how you said that. That was so eloquently put, Andrea. And I imagine, as a full-time yoga teacher, you've had to sit with, the good stuff of having incredible students who I know you love and you give so much to, and also having to shift into a whole new way of teaching and being, and having to deal with the dark of not having your kula. It's something that I hear you talk about a lot, and I know is really
Mhm.
central to your teaching is building community. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, how has it been for you to build community in this way of teaching, in this way of being?
So it's been a really interesting journey. I teach and have taught primarily in a few different places. Like I get my biggest hit in teaching in studios, or I had, right? And so by a hit, I mean like my own personal hit in the heart. Like those are my favorite ways of being, because a studio offers like constant influx of new students. And it also gives an opportunity for like local community building. And so, where not only is the local community being served, I'm served as being part of that local community. And sometimes it's not the place where I live, it's not my local community. So I've been able to go into local communities around the city and the greater area, and then like become part of new communities while also helping them grow. Those Some of those studios have closed now. And so I've seen like, that's really hard, because even though there's been, I think, a dramatic shift for students, because in Boston, we really haven't gone in person, not for most studios. And so while it's been a really dramatic shift, like a sifting of the students that like used to only practice in person to then having to shift to being online, not everybody can make the leap. Not everybody did make the leap. That was really, I think, one thing of a
Yeah.
sifting process. And then to also, for those folks who did make the leap and they had like a tether of a community, they still had their community studio. It was just virtually. They could see their community members still come to class. They didn't lose like the kula that they were used to practicing in walls within. But if those studios happen to close, like brick and mortar and online presence, then there was like yet another shift of like then those students, right, having to then like make the migration to then practicing online with only one teacher. And I don't think, like, we're not structured in a way in our culture um to practice with one teacher, right? We're just not. We're like the Western yoga industry is largely, to a certain extent, or it has been for like a couple of decades, um, the place of drop-in classes,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like the potpourri experience, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just like what it is. And so instead of like studying with one particular teacher or maybe two over a period of time, really like refining and honing skills and going through the growth process, I think that that second shift of like when studios close to then only going to one teacher, it's like there's less and less students that go along the path. And so
Mm-hmm.
what I've seen is, while I've been able to like continue teaching, and the community comes with me from these different studios, that the communities where the studio is closed but we have a virtual online presence, those classes have grown. But the studios that have closed everything, right, and where I've had to take on the classes myself, like that, those numbers have waned, because there's I think it's like the evolutionary trickle down process of having to discern who is my teacher. And really, like, when you ask yourself upon reflection, who is my teacher? I'm not even 100% sure many of us are ready in our own practice to ask ourselves that question, right? We're like still topically up here. We're like in the potpourri experience of I'm going to take an hour and a half class. And it's like, that's enough practice for me. Like, that's enough yoga for me. That's enough reflection for me. And that's okay. That's good. So this is what I'm finding. And so like privates are still happening for me. So I'm super happy. And I do them in person and on Zoom. And I love that. We wear masks and we are, but we are experiencing like my vision to a person's body, my feeling to what they need. That's happening. And I'm still teaching in teacher trainings, which are on Zoom right now. So that's been a really interesting shift that's benefited. And also it's benefited and it's also like made more difficult by the pandemic. That's a long way of answering your question, but that's really.
There's so many wonderful nuggets in there. So on the Western culture of drop-ins, I just want to share with you that here, when I started teaching, it was really difficult because here most people do they pay monthly, and the amount is based on how many times a week they go to that teacher's class. And so when I started doing a class card or a drop-in, it took a lot of explaining. I can't tell you how many conversations I had just explaining. And then when I started to encourage my students, when we have retreats, I can't have my normal classes on the same schedule because our space is used by you and other guest teachers that come, but encouraging them to go to other teachers was like, what? You're encouraging me to go to other teachers? And I do think that what you said is interesting because it's this whole idea of the guru and who is our teacher. And I've always been of the philosophy of, it's great to try a few things because every teacher has his or her own style and will highlight certain things. And, each person will connect in their own way to one or a few or many. And once you start to find what works for you, then as the ancient texts say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And I wonder if you think that this shift to more deeper practice, more profound learning. So it's not just this hour and a half, but it's a sequence of building upon things, because you may have some of the same students coming back. Do you feel like this gives people a chance to go deeper where maybe they're now ready?
I think the opportunity is there. And one of the things that I have always been like blessed with is that I see a continuity of my students. I've known many of them for the whole time that I've lived back in Boston for like the last 10, 11 years. So I've seen a continuity of those folks, and they come no matter what studio, right? Like what brick and mortar studio, they come no matter what online link they have to pop in. They come, and it's really about scheduling. And I do see their studentship, even if it's not their physical, like the exterior, even if though I don't maybe see the physical manifestations of the repetition of teachings, I see it in their desire, in their inner architecture. I see it in like the tapas. I see it, right? I see it there. And so I do not require people only practice with me. Like, go out there and find. I have been blessed by having a few different teachers. I do have one teacher right now who's like my main asana teacher, and have sat in that company for years. And I see the benefits of that. And right. I think, what's interesting, and I always like try to hold in the same regard, is that as a studio owner, right, to cultivate community, you would have to say exactly what you're saying. And as a teacher who has to like make a living, right, in the world of yoga, like it also makes sense, like what I'm saying. And so it's really interesting to me, like how can these two places of like the greater community sort of mindset, and then a smaller community mindset, then how do they fully support each other? Yeah, that's a thing. Like, it's a place, really, there's a lot of grist there and lots of like opportunity for like tension and growth and, contemplation.
Yeah, well, it's like you said in the beginning, being able to sit with the light and the dark, and having that willingness to be with all of it. And as you said in the beginning, the pandemic has showed us this, and at least if we're sitting with it, we can start to observe it and then go into, the action, if there is an action, a conversation or a
Yeah.
deeper dive. And yeah.
And it's also an understanding that we're like all of us as teachers of the teachings and like folks who are practicing sort of a bigger worldview, right?
Mm-hmm.
A more inclusive worldview, one where everyone thrives, that we're all in this to elevate as many folks as possible. So, right, there's not a competition in that. It is just a consideration of how our world is structured, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how these practices are structured in our current world.
Yeah.
Right? So those are like the considerations, I think. So I think all of that's been affected by the pandemic, in both like ways where we've refined a few things, some things have become clear, some things have become lost, some gained.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you talk about, our role as teachers in elevating this awareness, and we like to say elevating consciousness, and that's kind of the travel we like to host. But, one of the things I've heard you say a lot is that yoga is accessible for all. And so how do you get people to put their foot in the door and show up for the first time? How do you get people to actually start, and how do they experience these benefits?
Yoga is accessible to everyone is really like, my job is to be clear, to show, to engage in conversation, to make it practical, right? To give practical tools. Those are my things, like my over here responsibilities, and also to like, then there's a responsibility of the student on the other side of the screen, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's incredible. That's motivating as well. And it's funny because like you said, not everybody made the switch from in person to online, whether they have, some people have told me they had small children in the house. It's impossible to do something or for whatever reason. But it's really a great point you make about the people that are showing up are taking more responsibility and kind of going back to our earlier point, maybe even going deeper and learning more because they're realizing the need for this practice to be more than just the drop into some breathing and maybe exercise.
Yeah, online. But I have to tell you, I love this format. I get to practice with my teacher who's like moved from Colorado to Washington twice a week. I haven't seen her in years now. And because of the pandemic, like she's online a lot more. So now I'm online with different communities practicing live. And when I can't come because my daughter's school has some function or I'm freaking out and I need to make food or whatever it is, right? I get that community class recorded and I'm practicing and I'm seeing familiar faces in the Zoom room, if you will.
Yeah.
And I'm able to, even if I'm not there live, like drop into that place as if it was in a live experience. And maybe it's not the same, but it's definitely similar.
I think this connection, virtually this expansion of connection that allows us to connect with teachers in other cities, allows us to connect from the Azores to Boston.
Yeah.
And it is really nourishing. I have been very surprised. And so whenever someone says, oh, I can't do online, because here we've had in the Azores, it's been a lot, it's an island. They've been able to control things in a different way. So we have had a lot of in-person classes. There was a period where things stopped because the cases started to rise. But that's when people said, well, I'm not coming. And it's like, well, have you done an online experience? I'm like, no. It's like, well, it's amazing how much a teacher can convey of your energy, of your intention, and of your kindness and wanting to see them and giving them that compassion. I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
So how your practice, if I recall, it's been a while, 6 years since I came to your classes, which was my favorite way to spend my Sunday, I remember. But I loved your Dharma talk, or your point of focus that you tied the physical practice into. But I remember your practice being particularly strong, and it's one of the reasons I loved your classes and the time to break things down. What kind of practice are you sharing now, and do you have anything you'd like to share with us?
Yes. So, strong is a funny word. It means a few different things to people. I think strong can mean like, can be like a focal point where people are drawn to. And then I think sometimes people hear strong and they think, I need a light touch, right? And too strong. So, my practice is still one where I really do feel that many of us physically aren't strong. Like our physical bodies are not strong. Come on, we like don't work in the fields. We don't work outside. We're really largely, we're across the board in spaces in the ways that like our work lives are much more sedentary than we used to be. Less of us are outside, less of us are physically active in ways that really keep the physical plane of the body working in such an optimal way that it's going to carry us into age in a way that really like keeps us balanced, keeps us like, and by balanced, I really mean like in balance in our body from falling, keeps our bones strong, keeps our muscles pliable. I feel like when I work in my classes, what I'm optimally looking for is strength in the physical body as we age. And so by strong practice, right, I do mean really like a supportive, holistically supportive practice. Strong also, for me, has a really like emotional, psychological aspect to it that we can build strength in so many different ways. And so the physical body is one way. Sometimes when we create a strong container, right, the inner part of the container also feels like it's held in a safer space, in a more secure, trusting place for our psyches to then build the resiliency that we need. And so for me, it's sort of a symbiotic, strong class. So yes, I'm still able to tweak what strong means for like bodies that look a certain way and are looking for like much more strong practice, in like the world of vinyasa slash like power yoga slash need more movement, like in the mind, right? Need more occupation, need more like physical stress, because some of our bodies really desire physical stress. We have a lot of heat to get off. Yeah. And so I like those classes and I can do those classes. And when we source them from that, like holding things right in line with each other, then to source that not from like a place of like constantly having to work on ourselves and against ourselves, but working with ourselves, right? It's like sourced from softness and sourced from compassion. And so my beginner students then aren't working hard in a way where they're overly exhausted, but they had some work to do. And maybe for my injured, aging students, whatever that means for them, we work on practices of mobility, right? So that strength is then optimization of how their bodies work, how they're, as we're aging, are becoming more limited in motion, are keeping the full range of motion happening. So, creating strength when we're losing strength is really, it's work.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. And I was just going to add, when you do get over here, we're going to put you to work because we have lots of, yard work, garden work, we can
I love
certainly
it.
help you embody this.
I love it. I'm a person who's very, very, like, I'm a pitta, like, I'm a fiery, passionate
Really?
in my,
I wasn't sure, Andrea. I wasn't sure.
I think it's like a gift.
Yeah. Oh my God. I can't wait to take your class again. Oh, what you're talking about is just music to my ears. And I'm also a pit. So I feel your fire and
I couldn't tell, but okay.
So when the lucky folks that join you here, when you do get here, come, what are you most excited about? What do you have in store for them? Are they strapping in for the ride, or what's it going to be?
I think, I think we're so, on this side of the pond, we are so excited to be able to travel. Hi, Yu. We're so excited to be together. We're a little frightened, I think. Like, it's like what you realize you lose when you're
Yeah.
not together. And so I think, like, it's so exciting, and so it's all the feelings of coming
Yeah.
together to practice. And I was just writing this down. I feel like for me, as many people that are coming on my retreat from over here, from like Boston area, and if you viewer are not one of my retreaters and would like to come, please come along. I would love to have you. Is that my worldview expands when I go to new places, when I become part of a new community. My perceptions expand. It's like a whole thing that goes like that goes wide. Like I become more. And right now, I haven't been to new places. My worldview looks pretty small. And so personally, I am so excited to come see you, to be with you, to be in your home, to be on this island, like not in my small zip code island, right? To be in a new location with new people, in a new culture, with
Yeah.
other language, in a new space to become more. And so I
Yeah.
think that that's what the folks coming with me, my students are really, they're just looking forward to the moreness of the experience of being together, which is more than we've had. And even before the pandemic, all of those things were true. It's just that they're much more magnified now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that expanded view and experience of the world, and how travel gives you that. And I do feel that travel will be different after this all. I feel like it will be less like, random trips for business just to fly to the other side of the world for a meeting type
Yeah,
thing, and more trips with intention. And this is the type of travel that we've always
yeah,
wanted to create from the beginning. And we've just been now a lot bolder about it, and traveling for purpose and connection and immersion. And we can't wait to share this place with you and everybody who joins you on your retreat. The hikes, the fresh air, the hot springs, the waterfalls,
yeah.
the food is so alive. And actually, we've had a lot of time to work on our garden and we've been growing a lot, and we've had a lot of time to create new recipes. Joao has been,
That's
oh my
great.
gosh, he's been all over it. And it's been a lot of fun, and we can't wait to have you. And
Uh, I mean, I'm like, your words are balm to my soul. Like they land in a way where I'm like, oh, right.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's the remembrance of like all those possibilities
yeah,
that seem like right on the edge right now. They seem
yeah,
right on the edge of like manifestation. I can't wait for
uh,
all the
yeah.
aliveness, right? Like the feeling of aliveness is something I am looking forward to.
Mm. Wow. Well, I want to thank you for your time today with us and our viewers, and so many incredible nuggets of wisdom and also ideas and shares that I hope everyone will take to heart. I can't wait to see you in person.
Me too. Me too. I'm so looking forward to being with you. Thank you so much. And thank you for this connection that we've been able to maintain for so many years. And really, thank you for following your heart and making the great leap across the ocean.
Oh.